The Mongol horde swept across the plains like a living storm. Smoke rose from villages, rivers ran thick with blood, and the horizon burned with fire. Queen Anura watched from the palace walls as the city she loved descended into chaos. Soldiers struggled to hold the gates. Citizens ran blindly through the streets. The cries of children and the clash of steel filled the air. Arrows darkened the sky, striking anyone in sight. Siege engines tore through the walls with relentless precision. Anura rallied her soldiers, shouting commands, trying to maintain some semblance of order, but it was futile. Fire consumed homes, and the city was fracturing under the Mongol onslaught. Amid the chaos, Anura saw the faces of her people. Mothers clutching children, fathers falling in battle, merchants fleeing with whatever they could carry. Her heart ached, yet she knew she must survive. Every decision was critical, every step calculated. She could not fight them all. As the gates fell and walls crumbled, Anura gave the command to retreat to the inner keep. The Mongols pressed forward with terrifying efficiency. The city was lost. Smoke filled the air, obscuring vision, and death moved swiftly among the survivors. The queen's mind raced. Escape was necessary, but the Mongols would allow no easy route. The streets were a labyrinth of fire and bodies. With her remaining guards, she fought a desperate path through the chaos, only to find Mongol warriors blocking her way. They moved with silent, deadly precision. Her sword fell to the ground, and she was seized. Hood pulled over her face, hands bound. She was dragged through the burning streets. The city she had ruled, the streets she had walked since childhood, were gone, reduced to smoke, ash, and screams. She was alive but captured, and the terror that awaited beyond the city's ruins, the Mongol camp, would test her in ways the battlefield never had. The night march to the Mongol camp was long and merciless. Captives trudged through the cold, bound and silent. Some whimpered. Others stared blankly ahead, their spirits crushed before arrival. Anura felt the weight of her chains and the relentless eyes of the guards. Escape was impossible. The landscape itself was hostile. Frost-crusted ground cut through thin shoes, wind shredded her robes, and every sound, the crack of ice underfoot, the distant roar of fires, reminded her of how vulnerable she was. Around her, other captives whispered rumors of those who had vanished inside the Khan's tent, their absence a silent warning. Anura studied the Mongols, noting their discipline, efficiency, and deadly coordination. Every movement was deliberate. Every glance, every patrol pattern, every pause revealed subtle rules she would need to survive. Strength and courage would not save her here. Intelligence, observation, and patience were now her weapons. By dawn, the Mongol camp appeared. A vast sea of tents, fires flickering in the mist, horses neighing, and the distant sound of drums. The Khan's largest tent dominated the skyline. Her heart pounded. She was entering a place where life was measured not by courage on the battlefield, but by subtlety, obedience, and knowledge. With a deep breath, she stepped toward the canvas walls, knowing that the real trial, inside the Khan's domain, was just beginning. Inside the Khan's tent, the air was thick with smoke, incense, and the scent of horses and iron. Torches flickered, casting dancing shadows on the faces of commanders, advisors, and the Khan himself. Every eye turned to Anura, measuring her courage, her composure, her fear. She was offered a mat and a cup of water, gestures that were not kindness, but tests. One misstep, one wrong glance, and her life could be over. She forced herself to breathe evenly, fold her hands neatly, and observe silently. Hours passed as she learned to read the subtle signs. A narrowed eye, a whispered warning, a faint gesture. She noted which captives trembled, which guards could be influenced, and which advisors were dangerous. Knowledge became her shield, observation her weapon. The Khan remained mostly silent, yet his gaze weighed heavily. He measured her reactions, her courage, and her intelligence. Anura realized that surviving the siege of her city had been only the first trial. The tent was a battlefield of shadows, where subtlety and wit decided life and death. By nightfall, she understood the true horror. This was a war of minds, where fear, observation, and calculation determined survival. Days passed, and Anara adapted. She observed the Khan's habits, learned the routines of the guards, and memorized the alliances among captives. She understood that silence, subtle gestures, and careful words were crucial. Every action was weighed and judged. She learned which captives could be trusted, which guards were manipulable, and how to gain small measures of favor without drawing deadly attention. Observation of the environment itself became her shield. She knew when to move, when to speak, and when to wait. The psychological toll was immense. Fear was constant. Sleep was fitful. But each success, each correct reading of a glance or word, strengthened her resolve. The camp sought to break her mind, but she had begun to turn knowledge and caution into tools for survival. Queen Anara had learned the rules. The Mongols ruled not just with force, but through discipline, observation, and manipulation. Survival depended on intellect as much as endurance. Months passed, and Anara endured. She had mastered observation, subtlety, and the unspoken rules of the Khan's court. She had survived the siege, the march, and the terror inside the tent. Each day tested her patience and cunning, each interaction a delicate balance between obedience and self-preservation. Her city was gone, her people scattered or slain, yet her spirit remained. The lessons of the camp forged her mind and instincts. Small gestures and careful words became shields. Knowledge became her weapon. The Khan remained unpredictable, but Anara had learned to navigate the shadows, anticipate danger, and survive. The horror of her captivity was constant, yet within it, she found strength and resilience. She realized that survival was more than enduring. It was the mastery of perception, calculation, and courage. Queen Anara had survived the unimaginable. And though her past was lost, the endurance she forged in the shadowed camp would remain her legacy, whispered in history's hidden corners where the conqueror's tales cannot reach. Soft call to action. If this story fascinated you, subscribe to Whispers from the Past for more untold tales of courage, survival, and history's hidden horrors.